favourite songs. I think most of you will agree that listening. It's Powered by SOS, one of our favourite Raven-coined NFT music artists. But yeah, look, we'll wait a few minutes to people to join us. We just have clicked over the time. Just so we got Sunny, morning Sunny, or good evening Sunny, good evening Morgan, good evening Kuman, Bono, good evening. I think I just said crypto student. I think Kuman must be having a multi-personality today. He's got the two joining the space session. Not sure how he's doing that, having two people joining. I hope you're listening, Kuman. Please come up, and if you'd like to come up, if you can come up to me to add you as a speaker. Hi, Crypto Lisa. Hope you're well. Hope you are doing a bit better today. As I say before, it's Q&A sounds as good as people asking questions. Although I usually start with a bit basic overview, but obviously we get into some Q&As. It's like I said, we just wait a few minutes to allow people to join in. As I say, I probably just sort of reflect before we start reflecting on the last week. I've had some great momentum in terms of what's been happening with our pre-PC projects, in terms of some of the investors that I've been speaking to. So there is a few families that high wealth families that know nothing about blockchain, but they understand property. So I've been speaking to three in the US. There's two in New York and one in Florida. Also, there's a couple of families here on the Gold Coast as well that I've been speaking to as well. So again, just sort of they, as I said, they understand property but don't understand blockchain. So just a matter of taking them through the education process in terms of what is blockchain, what is real estate tokenized. So just taking them through those things that they obviously they see the value of real estate property, what it does, but they just want to get to understand in terms of what is blockchain and how it all works. Hey, Sunny.
Hi there. Hi. Thank you for putting on the space. Gosh, I actually have a question, and that is, in light of the fact that we'll probably be getting on other exchanges, like you mentioned before, DigiShares, and hopefully further down the line something like T0. Is there like a way to access like family offices and that allocate a certain percent of their portfolio into real estate investments?
Yeah, that's obviously the goal. Although we've obviously said that we like to see the everyday person, but naturally we're going to see some family offices, and I am aware, because obviously given my background as an accountant and being exposed to sort of those family office type of setups in terms especially that there was actually one particular one that came out of the US that invested into one of our clients about 8 years ago into their business. So again, they are looking for those those offerings that nobody else can actually get. And that family office is definitely a target for us.
And then I guess my second question is, and along that lines is let's say if these family offices have tons of money, and they just now all of a sudden one of the property is owned 90% by them as far as the allocation of the tokens. Is that a problem or no? Probably not. But
no, not a problem, because how I've set up our model is there's actually no voting rights for anybody, so everybody's treated the same. Obviously, we ask for sort of guidance, like I said, with the crypto portfolios that we invest in each month. In an informal way, I ask in terms of what things, those 25 speckies, 25% were specky cryptos, what things should we be looking at? Because obviously there's people that are token holders that have a really deep understanding of all the projects that are out there in the crypto world. So it's more in terms of what do you think, and providing a bit of a survey, but it's in an informal way. So, but to answer your question, no, there's no voting rights. So that's the beauty of that. In terms of what we're trying to do is basically, everybody's treated equally, and there is no voting rights. We know what the pathway is for the property. The only thing that's going to be is the only sort of variable that's going to be in the mix is that 25% that we invest in cryptos from the rent each month is getting feedback from what people think, what projects are out there that again, I can't be across everything as we go along. So it become very much a token holder community to sort of say, okay, well, have a look at these ones because I think we should be looking at this. They're so early. Let's chuck some of that for that particular month. But no, that voting that's because there's no voting rights. That's the beauty about it. Yeah, so they can have 90%, but it doesn't mean anything. They'll have the same thing as the person that just got the one token. Yeah. But definitely the family office is actually, because like I see, the problem that I've seen in the past, and I think it still is a big challenge, is a lot of the time those family offices are guided by their financial planners, whether it's internal financial planners or external financial planners. And at the moment, being so early, they're very hesitant in the blockchain investments. Anything in the blockchain, they're again by regulation, if they're using external financial planners, purely by regulation, they're not going there because financial planning regulations, where it's in the US, Australia, I think it's very common across all countries around the world, is that the people that regulate the financial planners, they're basically saying do not even go there in terms of blockchain investments, whether it be cryptos, whether it be property tokens or NFTs. They just can't go there. But the stupid thing about it is that the financial planners themselves, some of them are actually investing in crypto projects themselves, but they can't actually tell their clients about it because regulation sits over the top of them. Again, I've got colleagues who are in the financial planning industry, and again, that's just basically here in Australia in particular, and that's basically that's what they have to be guided by. But they themselves personally invest in crypto projects, which is crazy, So it hasn't really caught up yet. But yeah, look, I'm pretty optimistic. I think things will eventually catch up, and I think financial planning has to allow. The regulations have to allow to people to invest into crypto projects, whether it be property tokens, NFTs, purely the cryptos, because again, that's we know what the future is, and some of the big houses.
There was a Nasdaq.com that tweeted today. It said in an article, the world is going to be tokenized or something like. Let's start the tokenization of the world now.
That gives us great confidence.
Very grandiose, yeah.
Gives us great confidence.
Not just stocks, but everything.
Yeah, which gives us great confidence because when we start getting some of the big powerhouses like that saying that sort of gives you a lot of confidence and just sort of guides the regulators to say, you know what, we need to go this way. Some of the big houses at Morgan's in America and all those big hedge funds and so forth, they know that they need to provide exposure to their clients. In terms of in the crypto space, so that they know they have to be there. We know that the challenges that regulators continue to trying to make decisions where they know nothing about it, trying to protect their own spaces from the people that are feeding them, and without getting too political about things. But Hype Man's just joined us. Hi, Hype Man. Paul, how are you? Xander, Kevin, I hope you're all well. And we'll make a start. That's just on 10 past now. We'll make a start if you can sort of join in afterwards. So basically, for the people that don't know what Brisbane does or what is real estate tokenisation, so it's just a bit of an overview. So real estate tokenisation. So we're focusing in Australia, real estate properties. And I always bring it back to a very simple example in terms of what is real estate tokenisation, and basically. Probably I should go back a step before I do start. I think you just always take for granted in terms of the people that are listening in, but for new people, I'm Luis Miguel Lex. I'm the Managing Director for Big PC Projects. We're based here in Brisbane, Australia. Some people, and fondly, a lot of people call me Brick, hence the name that just shows up on my profile. And so I answer by Brick, I answer by Lewis, so whatever you want to use. But just coming back to the... so I always like to use an example, try and articulate in terms of what is real estate tokenisation. So basically just comes back, some of you probably have, or some of you probably thought about going in and buying a property with 4 other people, 4 friends or 4 family members, where there's 5 of you and you don't want the banks involved. You just, everybody chips in their money So it might be $1 million property, everybody chips in at $200,000, and off you go buy that property. Then you manage the property, you keep it long term, and you obviously go on that journey in earning that property. Well, we're doing exactly the same thing, but we're doing it on the worldwide scale, where basically we're saying here's our Brisbane property, for example, is our current property, brick wall property based in Brisbane, A-class residential property, and we just basically divided up into 40,000 pieces. So everybody has the ability to buy one token, as we call it, property token, or people can buy more than one. People can buy very many property tokens. So again, it's the beauty of that, providing access to anybody from all corners of the world. There's no restrictions into a real estate property here in Australia. So basically, that property, then we held that property long term. So that property is kept indefinitely, owned by a special purpose vehicle, a company, an Australian company. And that property is held indefinitely. It's rented out. That one's actually currently rented out already. So basically, we start the journey. The net rent from the property, rather than paying out, we actually have to invest that. Well, we invest that rent into a crypto portfolio. So there's a few issues there in terms of the model we've set up. We can't pay the rent out, which we basically turn a negative into a positive. So we're going to have a property that's which is the core asset, obviously, in that special purpose vehicle. That basically then we create a second asset within that token series, being the crypto portfolio. So each month the rent is generated from that property, and we invest that rent into a crypto portfolio. So then we've actually got two assets. And then to add a bit of fun and a bit of support to the NFTs, especially the Ravencoin community, we also buy a dozen NFT art pieces. That's also an asset within that token series, but also allows us to put that art that we buy on the wall of the property, so people get to enjoy. So the tenants get to enjoy that property, but we've also got a third asset within that token series. So basically, we then basically keep track in terms of the value of that token series. We've got the website, we've got the valuation box. That property gets valued each year as part of the financial statements prepared for the special purpose vehicle. And you can see what the value is at any time. You've got the crypto portfolio in there, you've got the NFTs in there as well, in the valuation box within at the website. I have put up I've pinned some things up on here, just so you can see. So I've got our main, just a little video that shows the property, the Brickwell property. Second just gives you a bit of an overview in terms of what the summary of the property, the Brickwell property. And the third one, just to show in terms of how do you buy Brickwell tokens. So we use USDC stable coins to swap for the Brickwell tokens. So that's the only way you can buy using USDC. USDC coins on our platform. So we've got the property tokens platform that you go on there, deposit USDC, and then you swap those for a Brickwell token. So each Brickwell token is $80 per token. That's US dollars. Put a little in terms of one of the walks that I've done outside the property. You can see sort of in the background and a bit around the village in terms of probably around a mile, a radius around the Brickwell property. I took on a walk around the property, so you can see in terms of where it is and some of the things around, a bit of the local businesses and so forth. And then the other tweet I've also pinned there is also just shows you in terms of the forecasting, the 10-year forecasting of the property, and using facts as to how that's been estimated out, because we always have to use history as an indicator, but then obviously we've got special economic indicators in terms of what's happening over the next 10 years that obviously impacts the property value. So that's sort of in a nutshell in terms of what real estate tokenization is, in terms of what we're doing. Still very early, as a lot of you know, in terms of real estate tokenization. So I think as of last month, there was only 179 properties tokenized around the world. Realty, which they're based out of, most of their properties are in Delaware. Most of it's probably around 100 they've probably got 100, out of the 179, I think they've probably got around 120 properties is actually theirs. That makes up that whole number that's of last month. So there's sort of the early ones as of last year. So that's they're the early starters. Just there's sort of small homes that they put up. So I think they're sort of they were the early ones that started it. Out of the 179, they've probably got around 120, I reckon, of those properties, and obviously we've got one at the moment in that number. So yeah, we're very early. Again, it's just making people aware in terms of what you can own in terms of real estate around the world, and I think that's it is a game changer because again, for anybody from any corners of the world, whether it's from the African continents in some of the developing countries, whether from Asia, against some of those developing countries, some of the established countries, Europe, UK, Australia, South America. So basically, everybody's got different problems as to why they can't access real estate, and some of the developing countries, more in terms of some of them that were banked before, some of them basically, their governments, the high inflationary governments have never allowed them to get ahead in life because of the basic wages and the price of the in terms of inflation and so forth. It's restricted them actually getting ahead in life, and so their problems are more from that perspective, and I guess from us is providing an opportunity for those people to get access to property through real estate properties. It's and then we've got other developed countries with different sort of challenges, and the clunky financial systems, the banking systems, provides those challenges for people to actually own property. And given my background and looking after people and friends and contacts, and I've seen it in terms of the challenges that banks provide in accessing property. And, if you don't fit within that box, basically, if you don't tick one of the boxes, you fall outside the box. And again, it's frustrating. And again, this is why we've got one of the problems we're trying to solve, to provide that access to everyone. So we again, the properties, our model is we don't get banks involved. There's no debt, so the properties are fully owned by token holders. And again, we're not accountable to any bank. It doesn't matter what the economic cycles do. We own the property, so we don't have to worry about loan repayments and all that sort of stuff. We own the property outright, so it just gets rid of those challenges that people experience, especially through some of those down the GFC that we had, the challenge that people had there. Again, that's one of the problems we're solving in terms of having the properties owned outright. So this sort of gives a bit of an overview in terms of what real estate tokenisation is. Probably just sort of reflect before. I'd like to sort of go into a bit more deeper details around the Brickwall property. But before I just sort of reflect in the last week in some of the brick walks. I hope you're enjoying the brick walks, showcasing what's happening around the area, around the Brickwall, some of the iconic spots around here. So last Wednesday, so it was actually a week ago. After I did this session, I went for a walk over to Howard Smith Wharfs, which is quite a fantastic precinct, multi-tenant precinct, cafes and what have you. As I was walking there, I actually happened to get on a space session, a real estate. Was a realtor, there's an investor, so quite a large group. There's around 60 people in the chat, and Marianne Bonhoff, she's a real estate agent out of Seattle. She was kind enough to let me to step up and speak. So this is obviously all traditional real estate. Then you're going to come up to somebody that's trying to challenge the status quo. Again, it's about educating in terms of what you can achieve. And Marianne was actually, she was kind enough to allow me to come up and speak. And she's actually recovering from some skin surgery, skin cancer surgery at the moment on her face. So shout out to Marianne if you are listening. I'll get to see the recording. Shout out to you, speedy recovery. She's a real estate agent out of Seattle, in the near Seattle. But yeah, it's so that was as I was walking, I managed to go into that space and sort of show some of the things that are happening around Howard Smith Wharf. On the Thursday, I went actually just around 3 blocks away from the Brickwalla property. We there's a gentleman that he's a current NBA player. He's just recovered from an injury. Aaron Baines is actually an Australian. Aaron Bain, he was playing for the Toronto Raptors last year before he got injured at the Olympics. So Aaron just actually bought the property. He's actually got 3 in the area. He's actually doing some renovations on the other ones. But this is actually the one he's going to be living in while he recovers from his back injury before he returns back to the States to the NBA. He's still a young lad, so he's still got a couple of years left in the NBA. So Aaron is our beloved centre for our Australian team. He actually got himself into the quarterfinals at the Olympics last year and wasn't able to play against the US in the semi-finals, which was he was really disappointed. But yeah, so Aaron, so he just lives just down the road from the Brick Wall. So if it's good for Aaron, it's good for all of us. Eh? So, but that was a Thursday walk, and then Friday I went down to the Gold Coast. Catching up with actually one family that's looking at investing into the property, into the Brickwala. So they're a high wealth family that they actually know nothing about blockchain, but understand property. They heavily invest in the property, real estate, both commercial and residential. They just sort of take them educated in terms of what blockchain is and what property tokenization is, and just take them through that. So hopefully they'll come on board and sort of be one of our token holders. So they're looking at sort of putting in around $200,000 into the Brickwala project. So just a matter of keep talking, educating, and hopefully they understand and they can come on board with us. I think most of us here that are on the space, most of us are token holders. We're all token holders. So hopefully we can have an Aussie family come on board with us. And just on that topic, I thought I sort of mentioned before, some of you might have not sort of heard, but before we started the session, that I actually talking to some families in the US, and again, it's they would fall in that family office category because they are high wealth families. So there's out of New York and also Florida. Again, just taking through the process of what is real estate tokenization, can give them understanding. They understand properly. But yeah, so it's just having chats over Zoom with them and educating them, and hopefully they'll come on board as well. But yeah, so the Gold Coast, Rick Walk on the Gold Coast. I'll put the pictures up of the team, people that we're heavily involved with, and the people that are part of what I class as our team, whether it be the town planners, whether it be in terms of the developers, builders. That particular property that we're all in that picture, that's actually one of the ones that I'm currently negotiating. That's at Miami. Probably saw some of the photos at Miami. So Miami Beach, but Miami Beach Gold Coast. So I think it was... someone actually said, "Oh, are you actually in Miami? Are you here in the US, Miami?" I said, "No, Miami Gold Coast." So I think it was a bit of confusion there, actually, which Miami that I was referring to. But so we are negotiating on that property pretty close to. So that'll be possibly the 7th and the 8th series. So obviously the Brickwala is our first series. So we've probably got to be thinking ahead. You've got to obviously be planning ahead. So so the Brick Dolphin and the Brick Shark, which is the 7th and the 8th series. So it's going to be likely a Miami property and also Burleigh Heads property. Burleigh Heads is probably around 2 miles down the road, south of Miami. So they're the 2 properties that we're currently negotiating on at the moment. So it's that was sort of the wrap up of the brick walks. As I said, that sort of gives you a bit of insight in terms of what's happening around the area. I want to just go sort of deep before we then get into questions. Just sort of go sort of a bit deep in terms of the Brickwala property, some of the metrics around the Brickwala property. The Brickwala, as most of you know, it's A-class residential property, and it's actually a 6-bedroom home with 4 bathrooms. So the property size, I'll use meters. We tend to use meterage as opposed to acres. But the property size is 531 square meters, and sits on a lot size of 427 square meters. But yeah, this property here is it's only 2 years old, so it's only a recently built property. But probably what I'd sort of like to share, you would have seen on the website the forecasting that we've made around where we see this property. So obviously total cost is 2.6 mil cost. We see this property going to 3.5 times. It's in 10 years time, so around 2032. We see this property being around just over $9 million in value, and so it's roughly around 3.5 times its current value. And some of you are probably thinking, Lewis, have you got bricks in your head? How can it be so much? Well, when we make forecasts, and obviously given my training as a CPA accountant, I always tend to be conservative in terms of forecasts that I make, and always use facts, use history to provide you some facts, and then use in terms of what the economic drivers are doing in future to give you a feel as to around the forecasting that gives you that those drivers to give you that estimate of the forecast. So I know some of you might think it's over $9 million is a high figure, but just probably to give you some background in terms of what property does here in Australia. So real estate property here in Australia, the rule of thumb is, especially in southeast Queensland with the Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, the 200-kilometre radius we're focusing on the coast. So basically what happens, properties here, they actually double every. So the rule of thumb, real estate property, this is residential real estate property, they double every 10 years. So again, you've got to look at history in terms of to give you those core fundamentals as to what a property is, where has it been. Obviously, it's a new property. So, but if we have a look in terms of property that are very similar to this one in the past, in terms of where it's set as far as value in the area. So it's an exclusive estate by the river. So it's just around 3 miles from the Brisbane CBD. So it sits on the river. So if you have a look at similar property over the years and where that's set, and this is all on the website. So similar property, this like 2011 was sitting around $1.3 million. So again, it was half what the value is now. If you looked at back to 2001, 20 years ago, that same property was sitting around $650,000. Again, doubled. If you look back 30 years ago, 1991, it was around $325,000. So again, and if you keep going back, the same pattern. If you go back 40 years, 50 years. So I've actually gone back 50 years, having a look at property of that stature in the area. What was the value of that property? What were they selling for? And again, that just reaffirms in terms of each year, property in the area here doubles. Some more, but if we use sort of the average, just typical house in the area, what it does, and again, just reaffirms that it actually doubles every 10 years. So again, using those facts as the base fundamentals, and then you sort of look at some of the things that we've actually had happen here around Brisbane and Australia, as to some of that, why some of that growth has happened. Like if we go back to 1982, we had the Brisbane Expo here in Brisbane. So that was just on the other side of our Brisbane CBD called the South Bank. We also had here the 2018 Gold Coast, on the Gold Coast, the Commonwealth Games. Obviously, the Commonwealth countries are part of England, the UK. So we had that on the Gold Coast in 2018. We had in 1988 we had the World Expo. Sorry, the Commonwealth Games in '82, World Expo in 1988. So there was also a major event here in Brisbane. And then, although some of the other major events didn't happen in Brisbane, they still had the impact in terms of what actually happened also a little bit in Brisbane. Like we had the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. So although Sydney obviously saw most of that activity, we still got a little bit of activity from that, the on-flow effect, and people actually visiting Brisbane and obviously seeing and buying property here in Brisbane as part of that exercise. Some of the things, if we sort of now look to the future, what things are impacting the property, the Rick Waller property, what's impacting it in future. So we've had COVID's provided us some special events here in southeast Queensland, in Brisbane. What's been happening is that some of you probably would have heard how Melbourne, you would have heard that we had record days of lockdown last year, and that was Melbourne. So the state of Victoria, which the city of Melbourne, they went very aggressive. The premier, the state, what is called state governors, we call them premiers here for our states. He was very aggressive in lockdowns and very, it's not to get political, but he had his own way. And then basically here in Brisbane, we actually had the opposite effect, where basically we handled it very well. I think we were lucky as well. I mean, the approach taken by our premier, there's some lucky things that fell our way. So we had probably two lockdowns since the COVID, two lockdowns, and they lasted 3 days. So again, we were very fortunate from that perspective. So given what happened from COVID, what actually happened from that is that a lot of people from other states, from Melbourne and also Sydney, because they were also heavily affected by COVID, and because people in lockdown, they basically needed to get away to be able to continue doing business, especially if you didn't be on the ground for business. A lot of them actually escaped up to Queensland, and a lot of them bought properties as a second homes to operate from. Here in Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, so we saw the impact from that. So that's been a major layer in terms of our impact in property prices. So over the last 12 months, we've had an increase in property prices by 20%. So one of those big impacts were in regards to the southerners, as we call them, from people from Melbourne and Sydney coming up and buying up here in our state, because we've always been behind in terms of property values in Brisbane. We've always been sometimes. We probably had 3/4, but we used to be like half of their value. Similar properties be half of their value. So again, we've got those layers that have been obviously working in our favour. But another major thing that's happening is also we have a lot of Australians coming back to Australia after COVID, where they've been living in the US or been living in the UK. They've actually decided to pack their bags and return home to raise their family, or to retire here, or to basically get back to their roots, get back to their family, to be close to their family, given obviously the impact that COVID's had on their lives while they've been living overseas. So we've had a lot of those people that, we've seen a bit of it over the last 18 months, them buying property, even without seeing the property, just seeing it online and buying that property here to basically plan their escape, as we call it. That there's only going to happen even more, because our international borders only opened 2 weeks ago. So all those people that were planning, they're actually now coming back, because our borders are now open. So some of them that had planned that didn't want to buy off the plan, or didn't want to buy online, we've seen those people now actually coming into our market, and they got pounds, they've got US dollars, which obviously works quite favourably in terms of what they're doing. So again, we've got those two major factors, both southerners and also international expats coming back home. And then we sort of look in terms of what's happening with the Olympics. This forecasting that I did was actually before the Olympics. We only got the award of the Olympics in October last year. So this forecast is all done before the Olympics. So again, it'll be a huge cherry on top from the forecasting perspective that we haven't been allowed for that. So again, but I'd rather be conservative in terms of the forecasting out. So as you can see, I'll put the tweet up there that shows you, okay, well, we see this property, the Brick Koala token series, it's 2.6 now. We see that between the property around just over $9 million in value and the crypto portfolio around 4.2 mil gives us a total of $3.5 million in total value for the series. But yeah, look, it's one of those things that I'd rather be conservative. If you ask me if you took your conservative cap off, what do you see this property? And I see this property valued a lot more, but I'm not going to say that, but I still keep conservative, only because it hasn't allowed for the Olympics. And I saw what the Olympics did for Sydney, and especially 2 years out from the Olympics and sort of a year after the Olympics, the massive hyper value that occurred. But again, this property is being held long-term indefinitely. So again, there's going to be some ups and downs over the next indefinite period. But again, we know that reality is always going to continue to rise as far as this property is concerned. And I guess in terms of people, if they want to cash in at any time, they can. So they've got the property tokens. We can obviously have a secondary market. So people can, once it's sold, there'll be a secondary market within our platform amongst token holders and people that come in and actually want to buy into the tokens, the property tokens. Then the next phase after that, once DigiShares finish setting up their secondary market, we'll be listing on that secondary market, real estate exchange. So we'll be listing on their secondary market. They provide, again, more liquidity. And then, again, our medium-term goal is to go to T0 and list our properties on T0 because that's obviously then provides even more liquidity. But yeah, look, I think T0, I think as we speak now, I think there's only actually 9 projects on there that are listed on T0. I actually was in there last week. DigiShares have actually got their first project. So one of the clients, so we have DigiShares clients, so DigiShares, they're the global leaders in real estate tokenization, setting up a platform. So they create our platform and they maintain our platform. So they actually had one of their clients list as a commercial property platform, commercial property project that DigiShares created a platform from. And they listed on the T0 exchange. I think it was last week, actually. So it was last week. So I think as we recorded, I think you can actually buy tokens in that commercial project. It's actually quite interesting. I think the guy who's one of the founders is actually a heart surgeon that's involved with the project that loves property, and that's basically the pathway they took to T0. So again, it just gives you great confidence. Some of these people that obviously lead the way in terms of those secondary markets, and obviously we want to follow the same pathway. And that was always our vision when we got involved and we're setting up and spoke to Klaus, the CEO from DigiShares. That was always our vision to get on the T0 because obviously we knew what T0 was doing. So again, but it's all stepping stones to get there. So we're just walking, and we like to be that, but then we're running once we get to T0. So it's all little steps along the way to get where we're going from a secondary market perspective. But yeah, so that's pretty much in a nutshell. So going deep on the Brick Koala property, and sort of gives you the insights in terms of how we've forecasted out by using facts from the history and using actual variables that are actually happening in the future around the Big Koala and the future properties that we put up as well. So we've got 10 more coming up after the Big Koala. So we're focusing mainly around this one here. So this area we'll keep around the same area for the Brick Roo, the Brick Emu, the Brick Kookaburra, the Brick Wombat, and the Brick Toad as the 5 here in Brisbane. Then we sort of add Gold Coast on later on to the 7th and the 8th series, the Big Dolphin and Big Shark. And then, so this is obviously in the next 12 months. And then we come back to Brisbane again for the Brick Dingo, Brick Echidna, and the Brick. Oh, then we go back to Gold Coast and Brick Platypus. So we try to keep it to the theme. So Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, we keep it to water-related animals. And then Brisbane to the land animals. So it's a bit of fun. It's I think that's pretty much in a nutshell around the Brick Koala property. And again, I'll open up for questions. Again, Q&A is only as good as people being able to ask questions. And again, this is what it's about, the platform to ask me anything about it. Yeah. So we've got Xander. Xander's up. Hi, Xander. I don't think I said hello to you. You good, Xander? So you've convinced your brother to come on as a Brick Koala token holder? You still working on it? I know Xander's one of our token holders, and he did actually have a discussion with his brother. He's a heavy crypto trader, and he was quite amazed that he could actually own property in Australia. So I think Xander's working on it. How are you, Xander? Just added you. How are you? Still going on. How are you, Xander?
What's going on, Louis?
You good?
Yeah. No, I talked to my brother already.
Did you? Yeah?
Yeah, he's waiting on some capital. Once he gets some extra capital, he's He's going to pull the trigger, he says.
Is it? I guess he's still riding the crypto. Obviously, the market's up. It's buoyant at the moment.
Yeah.
So he's probably waiting for a little bit more profit to come out.
I think so. I think that's what he's doing.
That's
what do you call it? Well, since I'm already talking, I mean, I was just on a space earlier. It was actually a space. It was in Spanish. Like there's a bunch of people from like Central and South America, and they were all talking about NFTs and tokens and whatnot, and I threw in the whole thing about the property ownership, right? Like the brick wall project, and they were just like, "That's possible? You can do that?" I was like, "Yeah, on the Ravencoin blockchain, you can tokenize, real estate," and they're like, "What the hell? We never heard of such a thing." I always get satisfaction when I sort of hear people's amazement that you can do that. What? I actually hopped in to a couple of South American spaces. Because I think it's starting to understand, obviously, with El Salvador leading the way with Bitcoin and the legalization of Bitcoin. I think a lot of them obviously know. A lot of governments obviously already talking about it. Like Mexico, I think they're talking about it. Argentina, they're talking about it. Brazil. Well, Brazil is actually committed to buy a certain amount of Bitcoin. I think Rio de Janeiro committed to buying so much Bitcoin as part of, I think it was like 1% of GDP of Bitcoin to be able to hedge against inflation. Because obviously Brazil, like all South American countries, they're massive inflation. And again, I always get, I do sometimes hop into a couple of spaces because I speak Portuguese, so I can understand Spanish. So I'm listening. It's just like sometimes, depending what part of South America they're from, obviously it's Brazil, I'm not a problem, I can understand it. But if it's Spanish, sometimes some parts of South Americans speak really fast. They just got to, if they slow it down, I can understand it. But a couple of spaces I've been hearing, and actually I'll put out a few tweets in Portuguese, Spanish, and the amazement you get is actually it's really heartwarming because. Again, this is one of the areas obviously we're focusing, providing people that some of the countries whether it's in Africa, whether it's South America, South America in terms of the high inflationary, economic, systems they have, it's just like they can never get ahead in life because they're always chasing their tail. I know I've got some mates in Brazil. They're really concerned at the moment because especially now, more so now because of all the government spending due to COVID and that. It's going to be more hyperinflation. It was really hyperinflation. I think you can go like hyperinflation times 2. And again, people never can't get ahead in life. And people that actually got a bit of wealth. You've got $1 million sitting in the bank account in Brazil. In 12 months' time, that $1 million actually only 500,000. That sort of inflationary issues that they've got. So I think I don't know the guy, the president of El Salvador, but you've got to take your hat off. The leadership he's showing. To be able to take this country, to give them this new future that they can actually get ahead in life by using blockchain and Bitcoin in terms of what they're doing. They just need to add Raven coins there to the mix, and they're going to do really well. But it's always good to hear that. That's it's the amazement in terms of what you tell people. It just gives you it warms my heart. When I hear that people that you can do that and then I guess it's up to them to take the next step. I guess. Yeah, pretty much.
But spread the word in those South American spaces because, as I said, a lot of them don't know they know blockchain, they know they're not crypto, they know cryptos, they know NFTs, but I think just such a lack of awareness around the property tokens and I think it's an easy, people actually in blockchain and cryptos, it's an easy to explain what property tokens, because it's on a blockchain. So it's actually an easy explanation compared to somebody that knows nothing about blockchain, which I'm going through at the moment with a couple of families. They're explaining that they understand real estate, but they know nothing about blockchain. And I guess just that trust in the blockchain,
because obviously I hear a lot of stories, and it's just taking through what it is and what it can do for you, why blockchain, and I guess just that education process. Yeah. But too, look, it's it'd be nice to, if there's any other people that Paul, you want to speak, Paul? Paul's always a great supporter. He certainly comes up on all spaces, and as most of you do. And I love the Paul's actually put some photos in terms of at the university, the open day. And again, it's great to see, Paul, in terms of you are a lead in terms of what you're doing, digital marketing, and obviously in the blockchain space. So it's great to have people like you in our community. But you, actually, I'm actually introducing just having a few people that just stepped up. I'm actually introducing some more spaces just to make it more time-friendly times for people around the world. And again, I don't expect people to join those sessions. I'm doing a bit one later on, sort of focusing around the African continent. There's some people I was speaking last week on one of the spaces that I'm speaking. So, but look, as I said, please don't feel obliged to. I'm going to add a few more space sessions, but only because just to give a bit of more awareness to, say, Africa, India, Asia, some of the South American continent. So again, just to make it easier from a time zone perspective. So if you see me doing the same Q&A in different times, I'm just sort of trying to make it easy for other continents to sort of listen in terms of what Brick BC is all about. Yeah, cool.
Hi, I'm all right, thank you. It's getting late here. We have a nice sunny day for a change here in England, which is unusual, I have to say, at this point in time.
Did you say it's raining? Did you say it's raining, Paul?
Yeah, it's usually raining. It's actually been sunny today, which is unusual.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say. So, have a party on that one. They don't come around all much.
Well, I mean, as you know, mate, I'm actually a French-trained artisan baker and, what's the term for it? Pizziola. So I'm actually a French-trained artisan pizza maker for stone-baked wood-fired pizzas, and I'm actually fed up at work, so I booked the whole 2 weeks off over Easter. I bought myself a 16-inch Uni gas-fired pizza maker, and I'm going to be nailing this pizza over Easter. Absolutely nailing it.
You're making me hungry. It's only breakfast here. It's only like 7 o'clock in the morning. You're making me hungry.
Oh,
I love pizza.
It's actually
pizza. Oh my god! Have to send some over.
Yeah.
Well, if you need any pointers on how to make pizza dough just with flour and water, then shoot me a DM, because that's what I make. Pizza every week, and I just use a sourdough starter. It's really fun. So it's literally like pizza from scratch. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I've actually got it's a 68-year-old sourdough starter, which was started in France in a place called, it's just south of the Vendée area, south of La Rochelle. And I'm actually using that. Obviously, I keep feeding it every week or so, because I'm keeping this in the fridge, which isn't brilliant for it, I must admit. But I have a sourdough starter, which is really old. It's older than me.
Yeah, well, mine's only about 1 year old, and it's doesn't have extravagant provenance like Paris.
No, mine's not Paris. I'm not that posh.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we ended up moving a couple of years into an apartment by the river here, and although it's got a lot of room, they don't allow wood fire ovens. We used to have one back at the house, but unfortunately, apartment living don't allow you to have these sort of these great things. So we have to do it in the oven, the normal conventional oven, unfortunately. That sounds great, Paul.
It is. Just a bit of a side subject. As you know, I'm a supporter of your tokens, which I think is a great idea. What might be worthwhile saying is it's going to be the effect of the Olympics, not just the fact that the property prices are rising there, and this what people are buying into is an amazing asset. But also that got the Olympics there, which is going to have, I mean, like it has in other countries that I've seen, a huge impact on the property prices.
It has. It's the Olympic model is a little bit different in terms of what countries spend these days. So they've gone to this boutique spending model as the new way when people get awarded the Olympics. And to be honest with you, I didn't think we were going to get the Olympics. And again, more forecasting that I've done was all done without the Olympics because I didn't think we were going to get it. And I think in the end we got it because nobody else wanted it. But look, the Olympics we've spent. There's not actually only just yesterday the government actually announced there's going to be a $1.8 billion spend in terms of infrastructure. The infrastructure in terms of transport and one of the stadiums, because we've got a lot of the stadiums already, given all the past events and our sporting teams here. We've got the most infrastructure as far as the league is concerned. But the thing is that these days, when they award the Olympics to countries, they're actually looking for a boutique model of spending rather than sort of a big spend in the past. And countries spend so much money, they never got a return on their money of the Olympics that they held. So they've gone to a different model now. But yeah, look, it's if the experiences that I had with Sydney, because I've had quite a few people. Clients and also some friends that were actually in the deep when the Sydney Olympics was in 2000, and I actually one property developer that was based down there. They saw this hyper growth 3 years leading into the Olympics. This really hyper growth that happens. It lasted another year after the Olympics, and then the second year after the Olympics, you saw a bit of a correction, which things don't keep going up. There's always slight corrections, but if you have a look at the properties where now, in terms of where it was then, it's obviously still way above where it was, so it continues to rise. So, and again, I'm not concerned about. There's going to be little blips along the way, but as I said here, property doubles every 10 years. It's just that we've got extraordinary circumstances here in Brisbane and southeast Queensland. Given those variables I mentioned before. So there's some good times ahead, but it's just it's not a once-off, it's a continual growth. And as I said, if I use the last 50 years here in Brisbane, it gives you a good solid foundation in terms of what property is going to be doing over the next 30, 40, 50 years. And I know some of us won't be around in 50 years' time, but obviously this is where our next generation obviously retains the ownership in the tokens. So obviously it gets passed down to them, to our next generation and the generation after. So, and again, this is generational wealth. This is what's happening here. It's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity in terms of Queensland having this sort of extra growth happening over the next 10 years. But knowing that beyond that, there's going to continue to grow. There's going to be again the same principles of doubling up every 10 years. So. Again, I don't think there's too many markets around the world, especially property markets, where you can say that your property doubles every 10 years. Probably in the UK, Paul, you probably, in terms of the stuff, especially if you're in London, for example, it'd be probably too hard to even buy property in London. And if you're in New York, it'd be pretty hard to buy any property in New York. So I guess from your perspective, Paul, you imagine trying to buy a property in London, the prices for the everyday person.
Yeah, I mean, London's just totally out of the market. A lot of these people are being bought by people, for example, from Singapore, Russia, of all places.
there's probably a few on the market at the moment.
And so on. So London is like so out of the market. But in my case, we can buy property in France really cheap. So I think if I'm going to retire, I'll probably move to France, to be honest, because it's when I retire, it's just going to be the cost of land over there is so much cheaper. The cost of living is cheaper. It's sunnier, certainly sunnier than here in the UK, and the quality of life is better. So certainly looking at maybe longer term future, moving somewhere else once the grandkids have moved up, grown up a bit.
Hey Paul, have you considered Australia? There's a great place called Brisbane.
I don't actually know Australia that well. I do know a lot of my friends have moved to Australia, but then I just lost touch with them. So, to be honest, just observing, listening to your chats and stuff like that, I'm slowly learning. It's starting to go on my radar. So definitely, yeah.
You have to come down because I've actually got quite a few friends that are English, and I think there's they find it so easy in terms of the transition because obviously our system's built on the English, on all English laws and so forth. This is obviously our DNA in terms of here in Australia, and they just find it so easy as a transition when they do come over. Like I've got one good friend of mine. He came over 17 years ago, and I literally I met him off the boat. As I'd be jokingly, just met him as he came off the boat. And again, today he's got a very successful business. Again, he's actually one of the top mortgage brokers here in Australia, and the top 10. And this is within a matter of 16 years. So again, the opportunity is here for people that want to start a new life, or just basically want to retire and just have an ease of life. I don't think you can ever actually retire, Paul, because you'll probably be involved in some form in terms of what you do, but certainly an ease back in life in terms of what you do. But Brisbane's a great place.
I mean, it sounds fantastic. I mean, as you know, because I do digital marketing very much as a practitioner as well as lecturing in this, I'll probably carry on doing that. I'll be completing my PhD in a few years anyway, so it's quite embarrassing actually. I've become Dr. Dobson.
Very well. Well, you might have to finish it off here in the University of Queensland, or actually QUT is actually the university I attended, which is literally it's really within the CBD of Brisbane. So they have more of a thing on business when it comes to technology and business. They actually are very much got their strengths in that space there. But so it might even finish a PhD at the QUT University. Just a thought.
I mean, that'd be interesting, definitely. At the moment, I'm doing my PhD in Manchester. Right. But that's hitting a few barriers because I'm pulling 14-hour days at the moment, so that's a bit of a killer. So I should pick that up again. But just going back to the pizzas with Sonny. Have a look at YouTube, Dobson's Dough. Because I did that as an experiment just to show my level 5 students a couple of years ago when we were in lockdown how to do YouTube, what works, what doesn't work, and I've even got gluten-free breads and stuff like that in there as well.
I can see an NFT of pizza how to coming out of used to. There's a project for the two of you. The food that made the piece an NFT.
Absolutely. I've actually been offered to set up a stone brick wood fire pizza place in Manchester, and then it's so tempting to create an NFT behind that. It's unbelievable.
I'm very curious to know how your pizza experience goes, because I've gotten really into pizza making, but I haven't gotten the wood, the pizza oven yet. I just use the regular oven, and it's actually working out okay. I follow this guy on YouTube who he should have his own NFTs. He has millions of views. But there's going to be TikTok is for their big creators. They're helping them to make NFTs, and all those self-helps and all those things are all going to be turned into NFTs. They went viral on TikTok.
I can hear one coming, Sammy. I can hear one coming. I can hear one. Is it Ravenous you're going to do it on?
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, I see LSJ. Oh, it's just sneaked in. Hello, LSJ.
LSJ's in.
Indy Bird, how are you, Indy? You good?
I mean, can you imagine me on TikTok, for goodness sake?
my TikTok posts are all pre-recorded. They're not live ones. So I do put some stuff on there. Again, trying to catch that young audience, obviously, in terms of exposing to property tokens. So I do put some stuff probably for a few times a week that we put on there. I think it's great for especially the younger people that they're making some good money. Some of these some of these young people make some great money on the NFTs. But again, you also got to be sensible. You've got to park some of that profit somewhere that gives you a bit of stability. And there's no better way to park it than a property token. That gives you the two benefits: stability, but obviously, exposure to growth, both the property and the crypto portfolio. There's again, it's just a matter of keep educating, putting things there to hopefully that they'll see and might sort of ring a bell. Yeah. But yeah, look, it's I think as we sort of wrap up, I think it's probably late at night. What is late at night? We're in UK, Paul, and LSJ and Indy. Where you guys are coming from? So
yeah,
we might
just 9 p.m. here.
Might just wrap things up a bit. If there's nothing else there, it's Paul, Sunny. Anything else from you before we close up?
No, it was great chatting. Thanks very much.
No, pleasure. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate you guys. Keep supporting us. I really deeply appreciate it. But as I said, look, in terms of I'm actually putting some more spaces, and I have one later on today. More sort of trying to capture the African audience, which brings in India as well. But look, please don't feel obliged. When you do see it, please don't feel, because I'll be talking. Don't feel obliged. But I really appreciate it. This one here continues to have same time, same place. This one here, and I'm just adding a few more to capture some other continents that makes it a bit more friendly at times for them. And but yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe, and we'll see you in another space. So we've got actually tomorrow's space. So we've got the appropriate real estate tokenization tomorrow, same as we did earlier. Tomorrow with Jake and Sarah and Dan. So we're just talking about again real estate tokenization in general. I'm just trying to make people aware what you can do with property and real estate, and providing obviously different perspectives. We'll probably get an update from Dan and Sarah how their project is going. And yeah, so just another great talking point tomorrow on real estate tokenization. Thank you so much, and take care. Bye-bye now.